What do you know about this? About this soon-to-be bet or an already bet but party called the New Patriotic Front, championed by the likes of Dr. Makuba and Co.
Look, well, the results of the last elections necessarily dictates that the New Patriotic Party should do an introspection, should begin to ask questions about how it could lose so massively, you know. And I'm not just talking about the final results, you know, which were declared. I've actually looked at polling station results, and I've seen many polling stations where the NPP actually scored 0. And that's unprecedented.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly unprecedented. So this was a really massive defeat. A defeat that no party has seen, you know, of the two parties. None of them has seen this kind of defeat since 1992. And that is why it becomes important for the party to go back to the drawing board, to examine itself, to ask relevant questions, and so on. So that's one. Two, it's also very, very clear that different forces in the party are beginning to position themselves, you know, for the control of the heart of the party, and it's very clear. I mean, I listened to Sarah Adra Safo make the point that there are some people in the party who want to end the political career of Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and that they, that is people like Adra Safo and so on, will do everything possible to ensure that she's the flag bearer for the 2028 elections. This is from Sarah Adra Safo. Now, only yesterday, I read another party member who had actually told the media, yes, that Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia was the cause of the defeat and that he should not be fielded again. I've read another very profound statement from the former Minister of Energy, Boachie Jaku, who argues that they lost so hugely because, you know, there was a departure from the values of the party. And that if the party has to make any headway, it has to come back to its original values and so on. And I've spoken to several party people, and it seems to me that there are different directions emerging in the party. Different, completely different directions emerging in the party. There are some who actually feel that the party has been so damaged and destroyed that it can no longer be a viable vehicle. And those people include people like Dr. Amwakuba,
yes,
who believe very strongly that, look, this vehicle is destroyed and that it can't go anywhere. So there's a need for the construction of a new political vehicle which will pursue the neoliberal path which the NPP has always pursued, and so. So there's this general confusion, you know, in the party. Now, in a situation like this, you need exceptional leadership to reconstruct the center and to bring people together. That is what I don't see. Today, I don't see the rallying point. If you see it, you can tell us.
But Kwesi, isn't that rallying point possible only after the Okwe's report is digested fully?
Absolutely.
So that you know what the way forward is.
The report would not provide a rallying point.
Okay.
In fact, what the report would do, if it's publicly made available, would be to deepen the cracks. To deepen the cracks. You know, to extend the blame game. And so
because there will definitely be a portion of blames.
Of course. I mean, there'll be disagreements over how the party lost.
Yeah.
And don't you forget that Stephen Amwa,
Speaker?
yes, actually spoke with the media a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And he acted very vehemently against the suggestion that he was one of the people who caused the party to lose the elections in the Ashanti region. And if you remember, his warning was that, look, if that is not stopped, he will reveal something.
True. I remember
You understand? You remember that very clearly. Now, you would also remember that when the NDC lost the 2016 election,
Yeah.
was it 2016?
Well, the 2016 elections, yes.
Okay. It set up a committee headed by Dr. Kwesi Pratt
Yes.
to prepare a report. And you remember that the party decided not to make the report public.
Yeah, even though there were some, yeah.
I think it was guided by the fact that it was guided by the fear that making the report public would lead to further acrimony and so on. So the report was never made public. I haven't seen the report. I know that there are a few people who claim that they have seen the report, but I didn't see the report. Okay. You understand? So this is the state of the party. Now, I think it's going to get worse, in the next few months, when people begin to see what actually went wrong. I mean, this morning we are talking about this diplomatic property which apparently or allegedly was sold in Lagos.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there are many party people who will be asking themselves questions. I mean, how did this happen under our tenure? Who allowed this to happen? Because the party people, a lot of them, decent people in the party, who feel that these things tarnish their own personal image and the image of the party. There are many party people who would not want to be associated with this kind of thing. Some of them may want to go along with this trend, this new trend which says that, look, we need to have a new party. They may. Some may want to stay, but they would want to stay under an entirely new leadership and so on. So all of these tensions are there. These are not tensions that anybody wishes or anybody is engineering. The situation in which the party finds itself leads to these kinds of things. You understand? And one thing that I always say, look, at a certain point in our history, around 1951, thereabout, all the way up to 1966, the most effectively organized political party in Africa was the Convention People's Party. It was led by a charismatic leader whose influence spread throughout the world. So, look at the state of that party today. So every political party can become a CPP. Every and any political party can become a CPP. You understand? And that is why it's important for those parties which appear to be thriving today to be extremely careful about how they conduct themselves. That is why it's important that when power is surrendered to these political leaders, they ought to be very careful about how to handle it. Because they can all become like the parties of old. You understand? I mean, when I was growing up, and this is a fact, if anybody suggested that one day the UP will be in power, nobody would have believed it. Nobody would have believed, even after the coup, you understand, and so on. But today, the new patriotic party, which claims to be springing out of the ashes of the UP and so on, has won how many elections? Has actually won 4 elections. Something has changed. The dynamics have changed and so on. And these dynamics keep changing all the time. Nothing is static. It keeps changing all the time, you know. And the signs I'm seeing must not be too comforting for anybody who is a member of the party and who wishes the party well. I mean, look, if you come to think about the contest of presidential candidature, of course, all the parties, even the parties which have no hope of ever winning any elections and so on, there are contests for leadership. We are hearing all kinds of names and permutations and so on. But for the new patriotic party, it's interesting. I mean, as we speak, there's no doubt at all that a chunk of the membership actually believe that Mr. Kennedy Ejapong will become the next presidential candidate, and that he has what it takes to lead the party and eventually to lead this country.
And there's also been part chap you mentioned. He has come up public to say he's for Ken.
Okay, but that's the point I'm making. But there are some people in the party who think that, hey, they have to do everything possible to ensure that Akompreku emerges as the leader of the party. And then there are the Sarah Adwa Safos and so on, who also believe that Bawumia is the magic wand. You understand?
Right.
And then don't dismiss people like Boache Jakun and others. I mean, there are people who are saying that, look, they made a mistake. And that if they had gone for independents and neutrals like Adai Nimo or Boache Jakun and so on, the party's fortunes would have been different.
Yeah.
What I find exceedingly interesting now is the persistent attacks on former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. A lot of the people in the party tend to think that he is the problem, that he personalized the party and his governance was so bad that it brought the party into dispute and so on. I find that exceedingly interesting. Because until 3 months ago, the same people were praising him. You understand? So what has changed? The same people. I mean, Akufo-Addo did no wrong. It's only a handful of people who were able to say publicly that they were not happy with his rule. But even then, many of them retreated very quickly. Remember the controversy over Ken Ofori-Atta's...
the 88.
What happened?
The famous 88.
What happened? Many of them retreated very fast.
Yeah.
You understand? And then joined the praise-singing choir and so on. Now it's interesting listening to some of the people who used to be loud praise singers. All of a sudden, the Akufo-Addo who did no wrong now is the Akufo-Addo who did all wrongs and so on. That's interesting. And I continuously say that what is happening to former President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo to become a very important lesson, not just for Nana Akufo-Addo alone, but for all leaders. All leaders must learn important lessons from what is happening to Nana Akufo-Addo. And if all leaders were to learn that important lesson, it would be good for them and it would be good for the country.
Okay.